Hey there everyone, AJ back again for the Mighty Glue Stick channel. I make videos about Dungeons & Dragons lore full-time and have a huge collection of videos on monster ecology, fantasy world history, cosmology, character classes and magic items on my channel. If you like what I do, please consider becoming a member of the channel by clicking the join button below or backing me on Subscribestar, where you can get access to all the scripts I write for these vids if you'd prefer to read what I'm saying, as well as behind the scenes content I'll be uploading there. I also have a Discord server with an active community, and of course subscribe to me here for 2 video uploads per week and a live stream every weekend. Oozes! Space oozes, an intelligent and benevolent civilization of otherworldly oozes, a technologically advanced benevolent civilization of oozes that is ancient and consists of countless other species who have given up their solid forms to blend in with the collective. Sound like fun? Well, that is what we are exploring today as I delve finally into the Creature Codex by Kobold Press, and we examined the unique form of life, which is the Shoth. Technically, the Shoth, though they fit most of the criteria of being oozes, are actual aberrations, though that is just because they are very alien in form and their presence can have a highly disruptive influence on the environment, potentially. They are, or were for the most part, once humanoid creatures who willingly gave up their previous physical form to dissolve into a gelatinous state and become one with the Shoth collective. I think these creatures are absolutely ideal for a Spelljammer or Planescape campaign encounter, and they are brilliant as a fit for a civilization that exists on a demi-plane or border elemental plane of ooze, or even, with a slight modification, a dimension of cheese. Let's just take a look at how they are described in the Creature Codex and the various forms of the Shoth you can encounter. And I quote, "The Shoth are an aberrant race of oozing humanoids from outside the known planes." Well, outside the known planes I guess would be either from the far realm or a parallel dimension, which I think is more likely, or from the prime material plane but from a distant part of it. Anyway, to continue. Their leader and namesake is a creature with godlike powers whose gelatinous body floats like a star in a distant galaxy. Again, pretty vague. Could be a distant sphere, could be a floating in the phlogiston somewhere, could be a pocket dimension, a para-elemental inner plane of its own divine realm. I think the general idea is we're not supposed to ever encounter the actual Shoth. Moving on. The Shoth have no home world. Instead, they wander the universe inside massive oozing vessels capable of interplanar travel. The internal structure is most likely quite weird and would be very restrictive to solid beings who are incapable of moving through 1-inch gaps to get from one section of the ship to the other. We do know that the ships are constructed of a metallic substance that exudes slime. Carrying on. The largest of these vessels, the Dripping Palace, contains an Avatar of Shoth itself. The singular purpose of Shoth, and therefore all the Shoth, is to dissolve willing sentient life in great bubbling pools called Zolves. We will learn shortly after about them. The Zolves can only be created by the elder form of the Shoth called the Drought, and the process is physically and mentally exhausting for them. To continue. Far from being warlike and dominating, the Shoth instead form close relationships with creatures, assisting those creatures in whatever the way they can. The Shoth provide assistance, wisdom, riches, and guidance until the object of their attention accepts the greatest offer the Shoth can make, absolute commingling. In this way, the Shoth increase both their knowledge and their numbers. They'll be known to work for millennia or more before making the offer of the Zolve to an entire species. Now this raises a number of questions, such as, given the choice between humans, elves and dwarves compared to dragons and mind flayers, would it make not more sense for the Shoth to try and merge with the species that they can gain the most knowledge and power from? Or are they more motivated by sharing a similar moral or ethical outlook? We learn that the process of dissolving oneself in a Zolve is not painful or unpleasant. The creature wades into the thick protein bath and is flooded with calm and peaceful emotions. Slowly the creature submerges itself and its body is dissolved, rising again as a vaguely humanoid ooze. And the listings that follow demonstrate that their civilization is divided up naturally by the length of time a creature has existed as a gelatinous convert of the Shoth. They also all share some common traits and abilities. So the Shoth follow a strict code of laws recorded in a magical sphere they called Zoms. Each Shoth carries its own Zom to which it telepathically refers to often. Only the Shoth can fully understand the Zom's signals and sounds. Though magic such as comprehend languages spells give the caster some measure of understanding, they don't have that innate, like it's not part of their body and collective. Laws of Shoth are actually the collected wisdom of all the desperate sentient species who have been dissolved over the eons, so it's like the Borg collective. So it is both a communication tool, an archive of philosophy and knowledge, as well as a direct connection to the collective and Shoth itself. It is their smartphone, their holy relic, their core possession, and an important catalyst for some of their shared biological traits. The Shoth divide themselves into different castes according to their age. Newly dissolved Shoth are called Soozes, and they are divided into warrior and worker types, while Shoth who have persisted a century or more earn the title Oth, being either arcanists or paladins of divine Shoth. These elders serve as generals in the Shoth armies or as scholarly wizards who pursue magical knowledge to add to the collective. The few who live for 500 more years become droths. These massive piles of ooze no longer appear humanoid, either looking like smaller versions of Shoth itself, and droths are required for the creation of zolves, and therefore are usually the last to arrive on a world. They're also the most heavily protected. Speaking of which, the Shoth also share certain common abilities that it pays to keep in mind when you're dealing with the species as a dungeon master. Obviously, they're all amorphous. They can move freely through a space as narrow as 1 inch wide. There is no reduction in their speed of the creatures when they do this, so they can actually dash through a sewer pipe, for instance. And what's more, they can carry their own special equipment with them, which shares this amorphous quality with them. Something to keep in mind when designing any custom alien technology the Shoth use, and this includes the remarkable Zom spheres inside of them. They're all quite strong, certainly a lot stronger than your average human, and can perform basic oozing, slam or crush attacks. Also, their internal fluids are acidic, so killing them will usually result in a temporary puddle of acid left behind. All Shoth can perform the act of merging. A Shoth with less than half its maximum hit points can merge with any other Shoth creature within 10 feet, adding its remaining hit point total to that creature's hit point total. The hit points gained this way can exceed the normal maximum for that creature. A Shoth can accept one such merger every 24 hours. This means the lesser Shoth will merge with greater and older Shoth who are in danger of being killed, particularly if an older Droth is under attack. This is an important tactical advantage they have, which will provide quite a significant boost to the creatures in the middle of combat. On top of that, they're just as able as any other creature to make use of divine healing, which the Oth paladins can probably provide if you wanted to allow them to have that sort of ability to channel power directly from Shoth itself. I see no reason why not. Finally, they're all resistant to acid, fire, and cold damage. They can communicate with telepathy to any creature with a language within 100 feet, and they have at least 60-foot vibration sense, which is called blind sense in D&D. So let's talk about what happens when a humanoid creature accepts the Shoth offer and submerges into the dissolving Zolv pool, blissing out on exotic narcotics and psychic good vibes. They're thoroughly transformed by this process, losing a lot of their former self as the collective absorbs their mind, memories, and talents. What eventually reluctantly rises out of the Zolv is a fresh new Suze, probably of the worker caste until they can master their new form. They receive further sharings of martial memories and talents from the collective and can become warriors. The Suze make up the bulk of the Shoth's armed forces. It appears vaguely humanoid, with 2 or 3 appendages capable of holding weapons or tools. Its Zom sits inside its head, where the strange sphere is visible through its translucent flesh, which is a bit creepy because that's where a humanoid's brain would normally be. They don't always display any sort of facial features, and they may have hints of many different colours to their slime body, or more of a uniform shade of blue, green, or a transparent pink. While the image in the book depicts a Suez warrior, shows them carrying a longsword and a metal shield, they normally would have a shield made up of many metal fragments or metal spheres of the same type of metal found in their space vessels. They can move freely around when they need the shield and the weapon. They just assemble the fragments into a deflective surface or a bladed slashing edge. Otherwise, there's no way they'd be able to freely slip into a 1-inch space with that sort of gear, so they obviously have their version of it. I imagine they'd have a variety of funky and squishy globs that perform all sorts of normal and exotic tasks, such as instead of carrying a big spool of rope, they might have some sort of an ooze polyp. They can squirt a line of chemicals that react with the air or water to solidify into silk rope. Anyone with ideas for some ooze items for the comment section, feel free, post away. Even the freshly reborn Suze has a rubbery armor class of 12 and up to 88 hit points, with a speed of 30 feet and a climb speed of 10 feet per round. They do tend to have a much higher charisma than you would expect, but there is another quality of the Shoth I'll talk about in just a minute. Suze labourers are tireless. They are immune to exhaustion. They can draw on that energy to dash as a bonus action up to 3 times per day. Immunity to exhaustion is actually a potent ability to have in many circumstances, for example, fighting against energy-draining undead. The warriors have that increased armor class bonus of +2 thanks to their equipment, and they have an advantage on attack rolls if they have an active ally within 5 feet of their target. Suze are +4 to hit, either with a slam attack that does 1d4 +2 bludgeoning damage with an extra 1d4 acid damage on top, or with their warrior blade equivalent to a longsword that does 1d8 +2 or 1d10 +2 slashing damage as a versatile weapon. The Suze follow the instructions of the Oth and the Droths without hesitation. They retain some of their personality traits of their former selves, as I mentioned, but they are eager to prove themselves and embrace their status as freshly dissolved. They are still fizzing with the glorious belonging to this ancient and benevolent civilization, every day discovering new wonders revealed to them by their study of the mystical Zom. After the Suze has served faithfully and survived for over a century, they become one of the Oth. The Oth command the Suzes and pilot the strange oozing ships which carry the Shoth from world to world. Oths take their orders from somewhat dreamy Droths and negotiate with the creatures of the world. Oths are charismatic and friendly creatures. Despite their oozing appearance, they have excellent senses of humour and can get along with nearly anyone. They do really sincerely want what is in the best interest of their allies. However, they do work tirelessly to move their allies towards that goal of being dissolved, since they see it as the best way of achieving ultimate kinship for all living creatures. They see no downsides to this greater union with as many other intelligent species as they can. They don't see any downside to their physical form. Their magic and natural charm help them to lead a creature, people or species to their inevitable dissolve. The Oths are large humanoids with 4 appendages. They wear hooded cloaks. Their zoms are stored inside their chest and pulse rhythmically like a mortal heart. Their union with the zom reflects their decades of study and dedication to the great and guiding intelligence of Shoth. Oths fall into 2 different roles. On the one side are the diplomatic and strategic dripping arcanists, and on the other side the more martial and physical paladins of Shoth. The dripping arcanists are an armor class of 15, and the paladins have that shield bonus of +2 to their armor class. Both have from 52 to 182 hit points, and they're able to release an acid spray, a rechargeable ability. It jets out 30 feet in a cone, with each creature in that area needing to succeed on a DC 15 dexterity saving throw, taking 5d8 acid damage on a fail, and half that damage if they make it. And of course, that's not just applicable to living creatures caught in their path. That acid spray can be used to demolish walls or, fortifications or siege weapons or whatever. The Oth are very persuasive. They have a charisma of 18 and +7 to their persuasion skill checks. The dripping arcanists have innate spellcasting abilities, as you would expect, charisma based, with a spell save DC of 15 and +7 to hit with their spells. They may cast Firebolt for 2d10 fire damage, Light and Thaumaturgy at will. They can cast Command, Mage Armor and Magic Missile 3 times each per day, Augury and Detect Thoughts twice each per day, and Fireball once per day. The Paladins of Shoth shine with a brilliant scarlet and white light emanating from their brilliant Zom, the power of Shoth itself. A non-Shoth creature that starts its turn within 5 feet of the Oth must succeed on a DC 15 Charisma saving throw or be blinded by the light of Shoth until the next turn. The Paladins make use of a greatsword, which has a 10-foot reach and +6 to hit and does 46 +3 slashing damage. So they shine with that light and swing around with that greatsword. Both types of Oth can also make a slam attack, +6 to hit and doing 2d10 +3 bludgeoning damage and 1d4 acid damage on top. Their acid spray recharges on a roll of 6 on a 6-sided die at the start of each round. Next up are the Droth. Their role in Shoth society is very important, as they've lived for at least 500 years, often much longer. They are the only Shoth who can physically produce a Zolve pool. So without the Droth, there would be drastically fewer Shoth. While the Oth are large, the Droth are huge, looking more like a body of water with a constantly rippling surface most of the time. They travel from world to world, usually appearing only once a safe location has been established, and there are a number of creatures who are wanting to undertake their transformation into a Shoth. Droth have it's a different sense of time than other Shoth, and communicate simple messages with other creatures over the course of days or weeks. They're revered by the Suze and the Oth, and they resemble almighty Shoth itself, after all. The Droth in turn bolster the abilities of the lesser Shoth, mostly through the soothing aura they emanate within 20 feet of themselves. Any creature hostile to the Droth that starts its turn within 20 feet of the Droth must succeed on a DC 17 Wisdom saving throw or have disadvantage on all attack rolls until the end of its next turn. Creatures with an intelligence of 3 or lower automatically fail the saving throw, so they can basically charm a whole bunch of little critters. Their whole body can potentially be a weapon. They have an ability that recharges on a roll of 5 or 6 at the start of a round called the Acid Wave. The Droth basically rises up and crashes down, releasing a 20-foot radius splash, a wave of acidic ooze. Each creature in the area must make a DC 17 dexterity saving throw. On a failure, the creature takes 10d8 acid damage and is knocked prone. On a success, a creature takes half that damage and isn't knocked prone. The Droth also has much longer tentacles and has a 15-foot reach attack, +8 to hit, that inflicts 4d12 +4 bludgeoning damage and an extra 2d6 acid damage. Droth are always heavily guarded, plus they're dreamy, philosophical and poetic with a rich personality, and while they're not exactly geniuses, they are wise, extremely charismatic and very soothing. They also have a 60-foot true sight and have a special ability related to their power to create a Zolve pond. 3 times per day, the Droth can absorb some of the essence of a creature that they've physically attacked. As a bonus action, it can recreate any action available to a creature it has damaged within the last minute. So essentially they're doing this constantly. This includes spells and actions with limited uses or with a recharge. This recreated action is resolved using the Droth statistics where available. Despite their initial appearance, the Droth can move fairly well. They have a speed of 20 feet per round and still have that 10-foot move of climbing speed per turn. Finally, a very rare encounter, such as when a Shoth space or dimensional vessel arrives for a very large-scale Zolving event. One would discover an actual Avatar of Shoth. The Avatar of Shoth is a gargantuan oozing pile connected to 2 Droths by a viscous appendage. The massive pulsing Zom sits in the center of its body, and it's from there that the laws and edicts of Shoth emanate. The Avatar's Zom is a powerful magical artifact which stores, creates, and disseminates the rules and tenets of the Shoth across all the planes of existence. Through this Zom, the Avatar can communicate telepathically with any Shoth over any distance and across any plane of existence. The Zom magically returns to Shoth itself if the Avatar is slain. The Avatar of Shoth is often called to worlds where the Shoth have been unsuccessful in converting a populace to dissolve with them, willingly. Though the Shoth do possess nearly infinite patience, in certain circumstances, Shoth itself determines it is no longer necessary to pursue a certain form of life. Alternatively, Shoth may decide to take extreme measures to encourage willingness to step into a Zolve. On a few occasions, maybe numerous occasions, Shoth has sent an Avatar to destroy all other life on a world, to force the reluctant race's hand and force them to join. The Shoth are always reluctant to do this though. but nobody really has a full understanding of just how much of the multiverse Shoth is physically and psychically aware of, how many dimensions it has spread its influence to, or any other long-term plans it has. It could be that Shoth simply require all Dragonborn to join them on the planet of Aber, for instance. Or Shoth has willingly allowed a rebellious sect of Oth and Adroth who have become obsessed with the Mind Flayer cult of Thune to break off and form a dangerous and somewhat deranged faction. The intellect of Shoth is somewhat off the charts, and we don't know what the long-term goals of Shoth are. The Dripping Palace is an enormous vessel that houses the Avatar of Shoth itself. The massive ship is made from slime-exuding metal plates and is powered by mysterious magical energy. The Avatar pilots the ship from its central chamber with the assistance of the Oths, and the Dripping Palace only arrives on worlds where the Shoth have met extreme opposition. Whenever the palace goes, a force of Oth paladins goes with it. The Avatar has a challenge rating 21 legendary creature. I won't reveal all the details to you in great detail, as you really need to get your hands on the Creature Codex. I can say that it has every trick of all the other Shoth at its disposal, plus some legendary and lair actions that make for a very tricky and frustrating fight for player characters, if it comes down to that. I think the Shoth are very interesting. They have loads of different applications, slot perfectly well into lots of different campaign settings, and also serve as a great template for very weird alien species. If you have a favourite creature from the Creature Codex or the Tome of Beasts from Kobold Press and you want me to discuss them in a video, let me know in the comments section down below. Please hit the like button if you made it this far, subscribe if you like what I do, check out my Patreon for all the full scripts for these videos, or switch over and join up on Subscribestar. Buy some sweet merchandise from my Teespring shop, wear your geek with pride, and as always, thanks for listening, and I'll be back with more for you very soon.